Hi everyone, thank you for joining this new session of the Supply Chain Leaders webinar series. Today we are very excited to be with Pierre Fabre, the French multinational pharmaceutical and cosmetics company. Thank you to the speaker, Vincent Pompon, who is S&OP manager for the dermal pharmacy brands at Pierre Fabre. The presentation will last 30 minutes and will be followed by a 15-minute Q&A session. So please do not hesitate to ask your questions throughout the webinar in the Q&A section of your screen. And now I'm going to hand it over to Vincent to start the presentation.
Hello everybody, I am Vincent Pompon from Pierre Fabre. I'm responsible, as Cindy said, for S&OP department. I'm taking care today of 4 brands inside Pierre Fabre Dermocosmetics that are Furterer, Chlorane, Elancil and Galenic. And before that, I was responsible for the project management, supply chain project management for Pierre Fabre Dermocosmetics. And that's the story I will tell to you now. So I will take 5 minutes to explain you a little bit what is Pierre Fabre Dermocosmetics, and then we will go through the project. And what is interesting here is that this project is quite old because it began in 2011 and finished around 2015. So we had time to make a return of experience on this project and to get some listeners and a new evolution on this supply chain approach. So Pierre Fabre, Dermocosmetics, it's number 2 in the world in dermocosmetic. What is dermocosmetic? In fact, it is cosmetic, but sold in drugstore. Our heart of business is Europa. We are number 1 in France, and we have a big growth in Asia in the last years. Asia, South America, and Moyen-Orient, Middle East. Thanks. Hey brands, perhaps the most known is Aven. Very famous for spring water and solar products, and also 2 local brands which are in Brazil and US. Something like $1 billion euros and 1,040,000 euros, and something like 4,050 and 500 employees in the world. In fact, we are all over the world. At the beginning, we began in France, and then in South Europa, and then more and more far from France. And that's a key point in our supply chain, because we produce more than 95% of our product in France. So more the turnover is far away, more it is long to go there, and so we need more inventory and more forecast quality to get not too much stock and a good quality of service. So what was the program? The subject has begun with a very big crisis on quality of service on OTIF. As you can see in this graph, we fell down from 80% to 60–70%. So our general director asked us to make a project to make it better. And when I made the diagnosis in 2011, what I have seen is that we had a big problem on forecast. Not only bad forecast, but very big over forecast in the short term and under forecast in the long term. What is the consequence of that is that we cannot anticipate industrial constraints and replenishment constraints on product. So we have big problem to get on time on production. So more than 50% of our orders, of production orders, were late, and 31% were too early, and only 20% were at the right time. The consequence of that is that, of course, we had a very bad on time in full, very bad quality of service, and the vicious cycle that did not stop there, because of bad quality of service. To protect themselves, countries, local markets, increase their forecast in the short term, because they said, well, when I ask for 80, I have 60, so I will ask for 120. Like that, I may have the 80 I need. So increase in forecast in short term, so more need for production, but we don't know if it's production for sales or for stock, and the vicious cycle go on. So the question was how to break that. And the idea was we cannot only work on demand, because the key point of this diagnosis is that the problem, the biggest matter is the trustness between the actors, between the market and production. So we had both to work on demand, but also on how to be able to give the right view on the need, and on how we will cover the need with factories. So we work on demand, we work on forecast tools and process. We work also on how to make the right trade-off between the needs. So how to develop trust in the answer we made to each country, we make to each country demand. And also, we had to work on organization to transform the purchasers, the logistic purchaser that were in the subsidiary and in central, in a real supply chain manager, logistic manager that will facilitate demand and S&OP process all over the world. The scope of the project was end-to-end planning, supply chain planning. So, as you can see, we worked on S&OP timeline and tactical and operational timeline. So we work on S&OP forecast, S&OP and industrial constraints, anticipation and stock management. We work on operational forecasts. I will explain the difference between these two forecasts. Local DRP, what do market needs, looking at the forecast. Central DRP, consolidation of the needs, production planning, replenishment planning, and then deployment plan. This is a key point. It is a calculation of the answer to local needs. So it is in the same tool. Here we consolidate, and here we answer how much we will be able to give to each country. And of course, all this planning were linked to execution processes in the factory and also in distribution centers. And at last, we also work on performance management, on KPIs management, and how to measure performance and to facilitate performance all over the world. We are in a complex context. What do I mean? This is a matrix to help enterprise to differentiate processes, tactical processes and supply chain. What is the idea? The idea is that if you have complexity on demand management, so if you need to make trade-off because you don't have all the capacity to answer all variation to all needs variation, then you have complexity on demand. If you have complexity, if you have a lot of trade-off to do between the production planning, between the sourcing of production, between anticipate and make stock and or put your production outside in another plant, for example. You have complexity on production planning, then you need specific processes in that. In Pierre Fabre Dermocosmetic, we have both. We have both because market demand is quite a little, I would say, it's not so predictable because a lot of events, of market events, a lot of regulation change, because Europa, for example, we said, well, such raw material will be forbidden in 6 months, so you have to cut all your needs on this product and react to find other way to make your turnover. And also, as a lot of you, I think, subject of economic crisis that make trends variation, and trends variation we know that is quite difficult to anticipate in the forecast. And we have also production complexity, so supply complexity, because of quite long lead time to go on the market. As I told you, our growth is more and more in Asia and South America, more than in Europe. So it's farthest and farthest. But also in all the production planning, we have something like 6 months of global lead time between if we go from zero stock of component to production to product free in distribution center in Central. So long lead time, choice between production lot batch size, capacity saturation, choice to do between sourcing, so we can produce some product in different factories inside Pierre Fabre or outside Pierre Fabre. So looking at our capacity constraints and S&OP forecast, we have to make choice in which factory, in which source we will produce. And looking at this factory source, we will have different price and different results in terms of production costs. So a lot of complexity and trade-off to do between demand and capacity and production planning. So how did we decide to deal with it? This is the planning architecture we implemented in this project. So to make forecast, we put Futuremaster in all our subsidiary, something like 28 subsidiary today, that have Futuremaster on forecast and on DRP. So from this, what we call SOFI for stock optimization and forecast improvement, that's for Futuremaster tool, we get from countries wished supply plan. So they say, well, I would like in such week, I would like for 100 units of this product. And I consolidate all these needs of all countries on all products in this central tool. That's its name, it's Worldwide DRP. It's also a Futuremaster module. It's a new model called DMS that help us to make the trade-off between production planning and forecast needs and supply needs. So how did it work? We received wished needs from countries, and we also received production planning, last production planning from SAP, from our factories. And inside the Worldwide DRP, we have an algorithm that makes the calculation on how much we can cover the demand with our last production planning. And as you will see in the next slide, this algorithm is done to increase trust between players. I will explain how it do it. And from this calculation, we give an answer to all countries on how much we will serve each countries on each product each week, because we always serve countries. The question is when. When we have constraints, perhaps they will have to wait for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 1 month before they get all the needs they ask for. And from this calculation, we also feed our order management system with allocation It means that when we will receive order from countries, this order will be filtered by the allocation. So it's to be sure that we only serve the trade-off we've made in the DMS system. Of course, we are not always able to serve with the last production planning the demand from the countries. So when we see that, we have a team here that look at that, that look at this gap between production planning and demand needs. And looking at that, they will work with factory to find improvements. And we will improve week by week the answer to the countries, and the countries each weekend will see the improvement of the answer. This is very nice, but as I told you, we had a big problem, that is the completeness of the forecast in the future. And in fact, because of security stock, because of transit lead time, even if most of our country make 12 months forecast, looking at factory needs, so we have only 6 months to 7 months full. And we cannot manage production constraints with only 6 months of visibility. So what we did is again, with a new FutureMaster tool, with FutureMaster module, we manage central forecasts. So S&OP forecast that will complete the local needs on the horizon of 18 months. Like that, we can anticipate with factories and find the best way to produce what we forecast in demand. Here you can see the principal screen. Skin, it's because we are in cosmetics. So the principal screen of the DMS. What can you see here? Here you have the central resources, so we can see the stock and all the projected stock. So that is the consequences on what we will serve to the country and what we will receive from the factories. And above, we will have the needs of each country. So in this tool, we see how we deploy the stock, with central stock between the needs of the different countries. And with the color system, we can very quickly analyze where we have shortage, where we deliver the commitment we've made or not. Commitment, this is a key word. Because in fact, inside the DMS, there is an algorithm, and the key subject, the key idea of this algorithm is that we prioritize commitment on new needs. You need to remind that our object is to develop trust. If each time a new country arrives and say, "Oh, I have a super opportunity. I need 10,000 units more for a key account, and it's a very important opportunity. I need 10,000 units." If each time I have this question in central, I deliver this 10,000 these new needs, not taking into account all the promises or the commitments I've already made to the other country will say, "Oh, they never serve what I asked for, and they never serve what they promised to me." So the key idea of this algorithm is to prioritize commitment. So even if they are in shortage, a new need is not priority on the promises we've already made to another country. Of course, we take into account stock out risk, but after commitment, okay? So, and this is the algorithm inside the system that will make this calculation and that will find how much we can serve to the new needs, because the idea is not to forbid new needs. If there is opportunity on market, even on short-term horizon, we want to serve them, but we want to serve them keeping our promises alive. So that was a short summary, so thanks, of what we've done on this project. So what are the results? And long-term results. Here you can see two key KPIs. The first one is forecast accuracy. This is the blue line. And the second one here is bias, forecast bias. And here you see the OTIF. I've took three countries that are quite representative of our market, and they are interesting because we have a long view, a long historical view, because as I told you, we implemented KPIs all along the project, and these were some of the first subsidiary that have been implemented. And as I told you, the project began in 2011, and you can see that we had a very nice improvement on forecast quality. So improvement of forecast accuracy and decrease of forecast bias at the implementation of the program. And you can also see that we had also a nice improvement on quality of service on OTIF on the same country, because I have to say that we changed the KPIs between the diagnosis and the implementation, not to improve it, but to decrease it, because we add in this KPIs the lead time measure to complete the fullness of the order. So that's why here you see a 60% at the beginning and not 70% as you saw in the first slide. And as you can see, we had very nice improvement during the project, like 20%. But the story is not finished there. And as you can see, we done success to keep the OTIF at this high level. We had a small decrease, and then a very big decrease in 2017. And you can see that we had also a big decrease in forecast accuracy and a big increase in forecast bias at the same period. Several effects on that. Here, I would say that the principal effect is when you put a KPI, when you implement a KPI, everybody take care of this KPI and try to improve it. And quite mechanically, you have an improvement of this KPI. And then when it becomes more routine, they focus on other subject, and you may have a decrease of this KPI. And it's maybe what we can see here. Here, we had a big crisis because we began in 2017 a new distribution center in Central, and this beginning had been very, very difficult, and we had something like 1 to 3 months of delay on delivering some products, and this created a big crisis in service level in the country. And because of crisis on service level, the cycles, the vicious cycle of the beginning came back, and we had increase of forecast bias and decrease of forecast accuracy. But the nice thing of it is that when the crisis had been finished, something in September of 2017, sorry, and what we can see is that quite quickly we had an improvement in forecast accuracy and forecast bias. So our system, our measurement system, and also a nice implication of general management. In fact, we put a new indicator in their bonus that was forecast bias, and help us to improve both forecast quality and quality of service. But we're still not so happy with this level of service quality and forecast quality. So we still need to work on that. So in summary, what are the qualitative results of this program? First, now we have a shared end-to-end vision on the Pierre Fabre dermocosmetic supply chain. And me from Central, I have the vision of the stock level in each subsidiary. I have the vision of the forecast of each subsidiary. So I can simulate what will be the consequences, what will be the impact of new production difficulties on a local market. And that's very interesting to make the right trade-off and to make the right production analysis, right prioritization also between production. Two, we get a nice optimization of demand and production planning because of tools to help countries to make forecasts. And because of a new way of sharing the needs with factories. We add service and forecast improvements. We get a little bit of productivity because before we manage quite the same number of products, but at a month bucket level in terms of planning. So forecast was made at month level, and supply planning and answer was made at month level. And now it is made at week bucket. And that's quite interesting in terms of stock management, in terms of trustness between players in the supply chain. And I will come back on that after. And the other, the last key points is that now we have a quite nice vision at 18 months on what are the need of production. So we can manage constraints. Of course, it is still a forecast. So as I always say to my production customer, a forecast is always wrong. So it is only an hypothesis to work and to build to build a planning. But in fact, with that, we improve day by day, we improve day after day, we improve our risk management on constraints, on capacity constraints, on supplier constraints, and it helps us to find the right solution in terms of capacity management. But whole is not green or pink. As you saw, we had some new service level, not really because of forecast quality or production matter, but more because of external constraints, distribution center, but also robustness of supplier, of pack supplier. For example, we had big crisis. In fact, a key supplier closed, and it took us 2 years to take over. So it is difficult to manage such crisis and to keep high quality of forecast. And in this case, communication is a key point between factories, central supply chain, and markets. And it's not so easy day by day. Second point, we don't succeed to reach the target on logistics. Today, we still not completely happy with the S&OP process in the subsidiary and on the level of forecast, quality forecast. And it's quite difficult to facilitate a network of 30, 35 demand manager all over the world and to get the right level of quality of service when they are under pressure of marketing and sellers to make the turnover. So we are in big reflection about how to improve this forecast. We work on bonus of a general manager, and it is a key lever. But we are thinking about perhaps changing the way we make our forecasts, and perhaps more central forecast, less local forecast. Well, key question for the next months. Long-term forecast accuracy is still to be improved, particularly on launch and local events, because as I say, we have a lot of local opportunity, and it's quite difficult to anticipate them. So we have to improve our event management all around our supply chain, and it might be one of the key points on the next years. We suffer a lot from production constraints that are imposed by the development, the product development process. So it is also a key point. How can we anticipate during the R&D process the constraints they are creating because of the choice they made on the formula or in the pack? And last, the transportation costs are growing continually, not because of us, but because of problem of petrol cost and so on. So we have a key subject on optimizing the transportation costs. So that's why supply chain project is never really finished. What you can see there is, it's here, the supply chain project I managed between 2011 and 2015, in which we deploy all the tools I explained you. So DMS, it is there, you see, in 2014 and 2015. The SOPHI, so the local forecast and GRP system that we deploy at the rhythm of 3 every 2 months, 3 new subsidiary every 2 months in the first the two first year. Yes, I will finish. And all other improvement on production planning. But as you can see, it is not finished. We're still working on improving forecasting and DRP system in subsidiary. And we worked on a big reorganization in central supply chain, because looking at our tool, at our capability and at our resources, we had the idea to change the organization, to put the right weight, the right resources on our key subject. Well, so this is the change of organization. Before, we were quite organized. At the end of the supply chain project, we were organized by métier, by functional, by process. So we had demand planner. I'm speaking of central organization, so central supply chain central organization. So we had demand planner that made the S&OP forecast and tried to facilitate subsidiary and forecast. We had supply planner that managed the DMS, so the deployment of stock all over the world and the phasing, phase out of new products, and a team on order management. And inside factory, inside the industrial supply chain, we had a central planning that tried to make the balance between capacity and load, and production planning that make the, no, sorry. In central supply chain, we had central planning and industrialization team that lead the project to industrialize new product. And the idea is to change the organization, because now it's not an idea, it has been implemented in 2017. What did we made? We put an S&OP department, in fact 3 of them, organized by brand. So we have one S&OP department for Aven, one for 3 other brands that are Derma, Ducret, and PFD, and one for Pierre Fabre Dermopharmacie, which is one I'm taking care with Chlorane, Elansil, René Furterer, and Galenic. And each of these departments are taking care of long-term forecast, and they are linked with industrialization team. So we have a very close relation between industrialization and long-term constraints and forecast management. And in this team, we manage both forecast and capacity. So we are directly linked with countries and factories, and not linked with countries and a team that manage factories. And in this team, you also see flow manager. The big difference is that here, flow manager managed all the horizon for 2 weeks to 7 months. Now they only manage from 2 months to 7 months. Why? Because to optimize transport, to reinforce the relationship with countries, we implemented a supply chain execution team that you see here, that in fact manage execution, but to optimize execution, they manage 2 months of horizon to have the visibility on what will arrive and to optimize transport, looking at both the local risk of shortage and the central production planning, as they don't only taking care of the first week of the horizon, but they can smooth the distribution, looking at this 2 months horizon. Well, and abroad this operational part, we have 2 more improvement organization. One is taking care of central process, and one is taking care of subsidiary and export and distributor all over the world. At last, if I keep a summary of our feedback on supply chain project with FutureMaster, it has been a pleasure to work with them because we had a very strong partnership to develop together a new tool, and it has been a nice collaboration. The solution is very interesting in terms of flexibility. We can do quite whatever we want with FutureMaster. It is a little bit a weakness of it because it is difficult to find the right level between complexness and robustness of the solution. But it is very nice to be able to adapt the tool to our needs, and it has been a key success factor in this project to really adapt our screen, our tool to the need of our countries. Also, what has been a key point is that we have been always working on how to improve of way of working between FutureMaster and Pierre Fabre, and each one of the 2 partners were able to give new solution to improve our way of working, and that has been very interesting. Some key success factor, don't forget that tools are only tools, and it is very nice to get data, to get visibility, to improve global vision and so on, but what makes the difference, it's organization and practices. So you have to get energized, to get people, resources to work on that, and your organization has to be made to work on that. Second point is that the data is a key to have the right data, good quality of data, to make people trust in the system. And this takes a long time to get the good quality of data when you have a lot of different systems, like in Pierre Fabre before the supply chain program. A third point, and this one, it is not finished, to go from forecasts like my father did and modelization is a real cultural change between adjusting forecasts, adjusting the number, and adjusting a model, adjusting hypothesis on forecast. And that's a big change for people, because they have big reflex and changing the number and not thinking about why the trains change, what has been the event, and will they be reproduced in the future. So it is a big change, and you need to take that into account when you deploy modelization in countries. Well, they asked me to stop there. So the last point, I don't remind what I mean there. Yes, perhaps the idea here is that you have to be to listen to your customer and to see what are their needs, how they understand what you try to implement, and to listen to adjust your solution to make the solution acceptable, because the supply chain program is always a subject of power change. You change the power relationship between the different players of the supply chain. So it is always difficult to implement it. And you need to develop trust between the project and personnel to success on that. Well, this is the end. So perhaps if we have time, we can have some questions.
Thank you, Vincent, for this great presentation and for sharing your insights with us today. So the attendees asked a lot of questions throughout the presentation, and we are going to try to respond to as many as possible during this 10-minute Q&A session. So the first one is, how many people are involved in this S&OP project?
To answer, in terms of team, in fact, the project team was, I would say, 7 persons. Well, it depends on the time of the project, but something like 7 persons, between 7 and 10. But of course, we implicate a lot more people from countries, from central supply chain, factories, and so on. So we touch something like 100 persons. In fact, looking at all people that are making planning all over the world.
Okay. What's the horizon of the wishful plan from subsidiaries?
Well, it's 12-month forecast, so it's something like 7 months in terms of central needs. What I mean is looking at the distribution center, because it's always a question of what kind of horizon you're speaking about. If you're speaking about local reception plan horizon, it's something like 8 months, but because of transportation planning, transit lead time, looking at central, it's more 8 months of complete need. But they're making a 12-month forecast.
Okay. Did you experience resistance to change when implementing the process? And if so, how did you overcome it?
No, never. It was so easy. Yes, there is resistance, but in fact, change management has been a key subject in our project, and we try to work on it very soon. And the idea, several ideas. First one is to share the diagnosis, is to make a diagnosis, a quantified diagnosis, and to share it with quite every planner in the world. To do that, we made it very quickly with factories, because we had nice improvement access to do on production planning and commitments of factories on the planning. But we organized quite quickly international seminar. So we consolidate all the planners of the countries in France, and we present them the diagnosis and the solution we were working on that on. And we discuss with them how this solution was right for them, how to improve the way they forecast. And we work with them, and each 2 years we had seminary to work with them on how to implement the target. The third and last point I would say it's to always integrate management in the project management, in the building of solution. We had steering committee, but solution steering committee with managers of the supply chain each 6 weeks, in which we explain the solution we were building, and each time we had a doubt, we share with them the doubt to find the best solution, the best trade-off between complexity and the solution we had. And like that, we had a management that were a board project, and that help us to implement after the project. I think that the key 3 points.
Okay. As you have capacity saturation issues, does that have an impact on your forecast? Do you continue to forecast market demand, or did you constrain forecast from the start?
As I say here, the idea of this algorithm, it is to, I think about my answer to say, to make the right one. I would say that we try to don't constrain demand, but in fact it's not true. The idea is to say to the country, make your forecast, put in your forecast all the opportunity you have. So the idea is to not constrain the forecast, but to constrain the answer. And that's a nice idea about the DMS. Perhaps I can give an example. In SAP, when I'm working with supplier, I have always a problem. When I ask for 100 units to my supplier, and my supplier answer, I will give you 80. What should I do? Do I correct my order and say, okay, because you tell me you answer 80, I correct my order and I say I will receive an order, I will receive only 80? Or should I keep my order at 100? Why we have this question? Because if I don't correct it, the producer don't see that they will have only 80 and not 100. So they cannot adapt their production planning. And when we arrive in short term, they discover that they will not have 100, but they will have only 80. And they say, oh, my production planning is killed because I cannot produce what I was expecting for because of replenishment problem. On the other way, if you correct your demand and you say, okay, you cannot serve me 100, I will put only an order of 80. Okay, production planning see that I have only 80, so they adapt their production planning. But the supplier don't see anymore that they don't answer our demand. So there is no real good solution in that, and it's a little bit the same with forecast and demand planning. I think it is important to have the both vision of what the market needs and what we can answer. And the idea is that we have the commitment is our answer, and the countries go on forecasting what they really need, and we try to improve our answer week by week, trying to find solution with factories and suppliers.
Thank you, Vincent. One last question. How did you deal with long leading time potential projects or unstable products?
I'm not sure to understand the question. When you are speaking of long lead time potential project, you are speaking of product project. When you are unstable products, I'm not sure I understand the question. So how to to answer that? Yes, we have how to manage it. It's a good question, and we need to improve on that. The idea is to sensibilize marketing on working on a market planning on a, how we say, glissant, 12 months rolling marketing planning, to always work on the marketing idea, not on the short term, but in 3 months, 6 months, 18 months. Like that, we can anticipate. So the idea is to push countries to anticipate and to say, okay, you cannot anticipate all. So if you have opportunity, give them to us, and we'll try to see what we can do. And the DMS help us to answer very quickly if we have stock, and a little bit with a little bit of more time if we need to rework on the production planning or supply planning. Well, I hope I answered the question, some of the question, because.
Thank you again very much, Vincent, for your presentation today. And thank you to the attendees for joining. We are very much interested in having your feedback on this webinar, so please take a couple of minutes to fill in the evaluation survey that you will be receiving shortly. You will also receive the recording of the webinar by email this week. And last but not least, our next Supply Chain Leaders webinar will be on the 25th of April, and will be presented by Fleury Michon, the French leader in deli meat and catering products. It will be focusing on how they adjusted their supply chain to support service excellence and growth. So thank you again for everyone for joining, and we wish you a very good day or evening.
Bye.